Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Today's question is, what is the last movie you saw that made you cry? As we know, movies sometimes can be tear jerkers. They pull at your heartstrings. That's what they're designed to do. I do my best not to let films get to me, but when they do, despite my best efforts, tears will well up, and I'll just hope that no one else notices. The last time this happened to me was at the tail end of 2019. It was the second to last movie I saw in a movie theater before the pandemic. And the movie was A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood fame. I went to see it with my boyfriend. It was our first movie date. I didn't know too much about it. I assumed it was a biopic, but it wasn't a biopic. It turns out it's about just one specific episode in Fred Rogers' life. And that is his dealings with a journalist from Esquire magazine who was assigned to write an article about Fred Rogers to expose the real man behind the TV character. And I won't get into any details about what the sentimentality thing that made me cry, but I don't want to spoil the movie in case you haven't seen it. Tom Hanks is really good in it, by the way. Anyway,
and the new scenes are tasteful.
I welled up a few times, and I just hoped my boyfriend didn't notice, and it turns out he didn't notice, because also found out later that he also welled up and I didn't notice. So
now, is this your Canadian boyfriend, or is this a flesh and blood person who's real?
This is a real person. Not a figment of my imagination, as far as I can tell.
There we go.
Yeah. So I can't think of the last movie I cried at that I watched recently was Edward Scissorhands, but I've already seen it a bunch of times before, and it's still I don't know. I cry all the time. I really do. I cry almost every day. I cry for some reason. Mostly it's tears of joy, but other times, I have a mood disorder. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Ever since we implemented the policy of give the new guy in the band an Indian burn every day, or a Dutch rub, or a pink belly, he cries.
You know what? It's healthy to cry, and that's going to be my pre-recommendation. Is hey, you should cry because it's good for you. It's good for your body physically too. All that extra saline out of your system.
Yeah.
And where else are you going to squirt that out of? Oh,
I don't know.
Don't answer that.
I cried at
a couple weeks. So yeah, I actually, I'm not ashamed to admit that I cry at movies. Like I know that Amy Winehouse movie, I cried like a baby for most of that. It's sad.
Documentary.
Yeah, I watched that with you, Joe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
we saw that one.
So yeah, that's my answer. Edward Scissorhands. And why? It's because I think I in some ways I can relate to the character, and I think it's kind of like I think a lot of people probably can. It's kind of similar to like the Frankenstein story, like somebody who wants to be good, but keeps breaking things or cutting things up with scissors.
Yeah. Did you ever see Edward Penis Hands?
I was going to ask the same thing.
It just so happens I saw some scenes from
I showed that to you. Yeah.
Is that one a tear jerker too, or is it?
There's a lot of jerking.
Another kind of jerk.
I can't believe you've never seen Edward Penis Hands.
I know of it. I worked in video stores for many years. I know of it.
Didn't get the invite to con when it played there.
That wasn't one of the employee rentals, free rentals we could get. So. Never saw it.
Okay.
Well, this episode isn't as sad as I thought it was going to be.
It's Dean's turn.
I guess it's my turn next. I cry pretty easily. I'm a very sympathetic crier, and the two most recent movies. I mean, I'm so sympathetic, or I cry so easily that I could cry at a TV commercial for the new 2021 Ford Bronco or something. Who knows?
Oh,
But the two, I can think of two instances where I kind of teared up a little bit. And the interesting thing about both is that they were really pretty bad movies. One was I finally got around to watching the last of the Star Wars movies. What is it called? The Rise of Skywalker.
yeah.
And it has kind of an emotional ending. It was a little bit strange. And then the other thing that I watched recently where I kind of teared up a little bit was, and it was really bad. I did not enjoy the latest Doctor Who year-end or Christmas holiday special or whatever. And the reason that it got emotional at the end was because two of the main well, am I going to spoil it for you? Two of the main characters are not going to be continuing on with the series. So I was sorry to see them go. So, but yeah, I'm a sympathetic crier. I'll pretty much cry at the drop of a hat.
It's weird. I cry at a lot of movies despite being a sociopath. I have no emotions whatsoever. And I cry a lot at movies. So the one that made me cry the most recently is The Nightingale from 2018. It's Jennifer Kent, who directed The Babadook, also directed it. And people ask me if I can recommend it, and I often have trouble recommending it because it is a brutal, unflinching film. It is really, really tough. And in some movies, when there's something horrible, the camera will move away, like a person would take their eyes away. And this dwells on everything. It's basically about a poor woman and her husband are indentured servants in Van Diemen's Land in like the which is now Tasmania, but in like the early 1800s. And it is real. It is rough from the very beginning. I mean, all the way through the end. Like if you're watching something that makes you cry, like Fiddler on the Roof, like Fiddler on the Roof is Fiddler. I will cry at Fiddler on the Roof so much at sunrise, sunset. But if you watch it from the beginning up until if you stop watching at Seidel's Wedding before the Cossacks show up, it's kind of like a fun romantic comedy. There's nothing like that in The Nightingale. The Nightingale is. It should be seen, but it's going to leave you traumatized after you see it. It is. They had to have psychiatrist on the set to help the people deal with the trauma of the stuff that they were filming. It's that rough. So yeah, if you decide to see it, it is a magnificent piece of filmmaking. But be warned, you will cry and look horrified through all of it. So now. Quick question. I don't know if you guys answer this before we go on to, because this is something I wrote down I wanted to know about. Before we go on to recommendations, are there any films that have always made you cry when you see them? Because I have two, and I watch them over and over again. They always make you cry. The first one is probably my favorite film of all time. It's a silent film from 1928 called The Crowd. And you'll know the scene that makes me cry every time. You know, I love you, Pop. And it's really really rough film about a guy who's born on the 4th of July and leads a very sort of common life. Good things happen, bad things happen, but it'll rip your heart out. And the other one that always gets me is The Blue Angel from 1930, with just seeing what Lola does to the professor. That I will actually, if I hear the song, Falling in Love Again, if I hear that, I'll actually tear up and start to cry. So and also the song Marlene Dietrich's favorite poem makes me think of that movie, that song, and that will actually induce tears. So I know there's like films that you guys regularly watch and you turn it on again knowing you're going to cry, or.
I think like the end of the movie Scrooged with Bill Murray, which I just think is such a funny movie, and he is so funny in it. And at the very end, he has this like genuine he breaks down in front of the live TV cameras, and he says, "Oh, this really the whole message from Dickens." That's because it's based on that. But,
okay, if he says I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, you're thinking of Network. That's not. It's Network.
I think it was I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah, that's in Network, and in Jaws, both movies. Yeah.
I can't think of any movie that I've watched twice that made me cry both times. I have seen Edward Scissorhands twice. The first time I cried. Yeah, I can't think of any right now off the top of my head. I don't watch that many movies multiple times though.
Yeah, if I see something, I kind of memorize it. But there are just some old films, and if you have Turner Classic Movies, they pop up a lot, and I'm like, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to be sad, and I will do it. I'll watch it. I'll do this over and over again.
A recommendations time.
Yeah, I recommend we move on.
I would like to recommend a product. It is Beeswax Food Wrap. I got it for Christmas. My friend Angel. This particular brand is called Nothing Fancy, but it's nothing more than, I guess, a cloth with beeswax around it. But the idea is that you use it to wrap up food before you put it in the fridge, like leftovers or whatever. Like, wrap it up. It sticks to itself and throw it in the fridge.
Is it reusable?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. So you don't use plastic that you throw away. These you rinse off, hang them to dry, and reuse them again. I've used this particular one dozens of times, and it's still holding up.
Great.
Your food comes in.
That's sad. I'm going to cry.
Why?
Because somewhere there's some bees toiling away, going, "We're making honey for the queen. She's going to be so happy when she gets."
Well,
and
yeah.
Something goes to the fridge. Oh, you've exploited the workers.
My recommendation for this week is full moon yoga. The full moon tonight, even though people watching this won't be, it'll be waning a little bit. But next full moon, whenever that is in February. Yeah, so Chrissy and I are doing full moon yoga as soon as we, yeah, because it's in a good spot now.
What is it?
The moon.
The moon.
Yoga.
Oh, yoga. It's not. It's just yoga with the full moon. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to get naked?
I don't think you have to. I think it's less constricting.
This is the first of 3 conversations that we're going to have with you that ends with, "We're moving to Guyana now to live with, in a cult." Yeah. I just see it. Yeah, I'm doing full moon yoga. I'm really getting in touch with my chakra now. I'm moving to Guyana. It always moves that way. The 3 conversations.
But yeah, you can do full moon yoga anytime as long as somebody pulls their pants down in front of you. With that, I'm done.
Okay. Let's see. This week, I'm a little bit unprepared, but I do want to recommend the current book that I'm reading. It's by Martin Amis. It's called The Inside Story, a novel. But the thing about it is it blends fact about his life, and parts of it possibly are fictitious, but you're not really sure which is which. And kind of every other chapter, he breaks up the narrative by a little conversation he has with you, the reader. It's very interesting. So I recommend that book. That's my recommendation.
And I would like to recommend Jewish space lasers. I've tried Lutheran space lasers. I've tried Presbyterian space lasers, but it's the Jewish space lasers that work the best. But seriously, fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene. Fuck her and her stupid ass. Okay, my real suggestion for this week, or recommendation, is Bound with Love. It's a 72-track benefit compilation. It benefits Klaus Larson. It's a bunch of people doing leather strip covers, there's leather strip reworkings. It's just really, it's pretty much everything you need to know about music in the last 15 years. And some of you people really need this. It's got Ego Likeness. So my favorite Ego Likeness remix is on it. Null Device are on it. Noor on it. It's got Angel Spit, Stone Burner, Mindless Faith, Android Lust. It's got God Module, I Barden Sphere, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. It is freaking awesome. It's only $20 and you get 75 songs. That's less than 4 cents a song. Think about that, because there's some dick tickler out there spending like $60 on like some reissue on color vinyl. It's bright yellow, and I want my kids to learn about the replacements. If you don't have this album, your kids will be taken away and placed in the custody of gasoline and vertebrate. So yes, please. And you know how we used to, when we were young, we used to call up radio stations like the classic rock radio station and ask them to play like Black Flag and the Circle Jerks and stuff like that. People, get this album and then call up your local alt rock station and ask them to play tracks off of it. They'll whine, they'll pee their pants. It'll be a lot of fun. They'll cry. Make someone else cry.
Hey, before we go, do you guys have any stock tips?
Use chicken stock rather than chicken broth.
Sounds good to me.
Charlie had a funny riddle for me today. He was like, Dad, there were a ton of people on a boat, and then the next time you looked, there's not a single one. And I was like, how does that work? And I was like trying to figure out, and he was like, they're all married.
It didn't sink.